if you're closing more than about 70% of your opportunities, you're not charging enough.
Coffee's for closers only.
So we've established my proposal is sound in principle. Now we're just haggling over price.
Let's see how much we're going for on eBay.
I mean, it's the same as Dunkin' Donuts. Costs 15 times the price.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Jennings Executive Search. I had a great conversation with John Jennings about the skills needed in different pricing roles. He and I think a lot alike. If you're looking for a new pricing role, or if you're trying to hire just the right pricing person, I strongly suggest you reach out to Jennings Executive Search. They specialize in placing pricing people. Say that 3 times fast. Welcome to Impact Pricing, the podcast where we discuss pricing, value, and the guerrilla relationship between them. I'm Mark Stiving. Today our guest is Orvel Ray Wilson, and here are 3 things you want to know about Orvel Ray before we start. He is co-author of the book Guerilla Selling and several other guerrilla books. He is a certified speaking professional, which is the National Speakers Association's equivalent to an Eagle Scout, which means he was really, really good at one point in time. And he is my personal business coach. Welcome, Orvel Ray.
Thank you, Mark. That has to be the most unusual introduction I've ever had.
Well, they always
Once
teach
an Eagle Scout, you're always an Eagle Scout, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The Eagle has landed, yes.
They always teach you in NSA to read someone's bio or intro the way they give it to you. Luckily, I didn't ask you for one.
Yeah. You just made stuff up. That's funny. Thanks for that.
Okay, so I start every one of my podcasts out with the question, how did you get into pricing? And would you ever say that you're into pricing, or is it just because you met me that you think about pricing?
I was because I met you. We met at the National Speakers Association in Las Vegas, and I was doing a master class on storytelling for NSA. And we started talking about pricing at one of the breaks. I'm like, this is... Yeah, I've been in sales and marketing for 40 years, and this is why have I not had this conversation? I'd never heard about this. It was fascinating, and so that's how we got started. And so one thing led to another, and you wound up writing this great book.
Well, thank you. So now, by the way, for our audience, what Orvel Ray and I are going to do today is talk about my new book, Selling Value. And what you need to know is I worked really hard to write this book. Orvel Ray actually worked really hard at editing it, making sure I did it well. He helped me record the audiobook. He has just been amazing in terms of helping me through the process. So Orvel Ray, how did you learn all this stuff?
Well, I learned it the hard way, and I have the canceled checks to prove it. I don't know. I started way back in 1980. With when I met Jay Levinson, who was the original author of the original Guerilla Marketing, published back in 1984. His publisher, Houghton Mifflin, wanted to do a sequel for salespeople on the rationale that there are more salespeople in the world than marketing people. And so we released Guerilla Selling in 1991. It became a runaway bestseller. And we wound up producing about one new guerrilla marketing book every 6 months for several years. The series now includes 58 titles in 63 languages, the best-selling marketing series in publishing history. And Guerilla Selling has been a landmark. So I traveled, all over the world doing seminars and, coaching and training with little companies you might have heard of, like Apple and IBM. And so, I had a great run with that. And so, but when we started talking about taking what you were doing with pricing and applying that to sales, that really lit me up, because no one had ever had that conversation before. I was like, salespeople need to understand, how this really works, not only to convey to do the math, and, show them that this is a good investment, but to do that in terms that are important to them. We had one of the central tenets of Guerilla Selling was, figure out what motivates this particular customer and appeal to that. The line was, I might have 100 good reasons why you should buy my product, but your decision is going to hinge on the 3 or 4 reasons that you think are important. And if you can isolate what those are and sell to those, then 2 things happen. One, the sales process is a lot simpler, and your offering is going to be irresistible. And so this whole discussion of selling value, how do you, analyze and communicate and package that back, to your customer as a fundamental approach to selling methodology, that I thought I recognized that immediately as a radical new addition to the genre, to the technology that everyone should understand.
It's interesting that you say it that way, because I've never heard you talk about the book Guerilla Selling before. And I thought that was really fascinating, that here are these 100 things and 3 things matter to this person.
Right.
And if you think about it, that's really what we wrote in Selling Value as well. And that is, there are lots and lots of different ways that buyers can get value from our products. What we need to do is understand what the possibilities are, and then go talk to individual buyers. And once they say, oh, this is what matters to me, we now have the business acumen or the capability to somehow translate that into real value, into dollars to our customers.
And one of the things that really resonated for me is the way that you turn the tables on that. Companies put together, features and benefit tables and value tables or ROI calculators or spreadsheets for their sales team to use. And one of the key insights in this book is that they don't trust those. The customer does not trust your ROI calculator, because they've assumed that you've padded the numbers and it's all a big con. And that may very well be the case in some cases, but they have a reason to be suspicious of your numbers. And you actually, in this book, you spell out the questions to ask so that they create the formula. They establish the baseline and do the arithmetic. And customers never argue with their own data. And so what this book shows salespeople how to do is to walk their customer through the process of analyzing and quantifying the value that's ultimately going to justify the purchase. And
so one way you could think about that is we help salespeople understand how to help their customers create their very own ROI calculator. So instead of walking in and saying, here's your ROI calculator, we just walk the customer through creating their own.
Right. Another thing that really excited me about this is this idea of the customer journey. What really hit me between the eyes was this concept of will I and which one. That every customer makes 2 decisions, and the first is, will I buy something in this category? And then a separate decision, well, among the various options and possibilities, which one is going to be the best process for me, the best option, the best solution. And many times we fail, we lose the sale, not because our product isn't a good fit, or because we don't have superior technology, but or aggressive pricing, but simply because we haven't got the customer to make the will I decision in the first place. And so I thought that was a really illuminating concept as well. It was something I had never seen in 40 years traveling the world as a celebrity sales trainer. It just hit me between the eyes. Went, man, this is really useful.
It's funny, when I was writing my very first book, Impact Pricing, I was just thinking about all the things I knew about pricing and all the situations. And typically the way I handle all of this is I'll find a situation and say, how does that apply to all these frameworks that I use? Mm-hmm. Oh, it doesn't apply. I need a new framework. I need a way to think about that. And I was working for National Semiconductor at the time. We had some products where we were unique. We didn't have any competition, and we could charge really high prices. And we had other products where we had tons of competition and we couldn't charge really high prices. And I started thinking about that from the customer, the buyer's perspective, and how could we get away with that? And that's where I came up with this will I and which one concept, which was pretty interesting. I've been teaching that to pricing and product management people for 25 years now. But I'd never thought to apply it to sales. And when you get excited hearing about this stuff, it makes me just giddy. So it's like, oh, here's this guy who knows sales really, really well, and he loves this stuff.
Hey, well, if I could share a story with you, as soon as we uploaded the files to Amazon, the first thing I did was ordered a copy of the book, as a test, just to make sure that everything was laid out correctly, and we dotted all the T's and crossed all the I's, and everything was working. I have a dear friend, Jordan, who runs a boutique landscape company here in Boulder for many years. And he's a great salesman and really just a brilliant landscape architect in his own right, and does these beautiful color pencil renderings. And he's also a very brilliant musician. And as you know, I lead a double life as a big band leader and drummer. And so he was up here at the studio a couple of weeks ago, and he always pumps me for sales training ideas whenever we get together. And so he was telling me about this customer. He was having some difficulty. They were kind of on the fence, wasn't sure. And I said, Jordan, you got to read this book. And I gave him the first off the press copy of the book that I had bought, and sent it home with him. And a couple of days later, I called to say, how are you coming along reading the book? And he said, not so good. I'm not that good a reader. So as I have been finishing the mastering of the tracks for the audio version, I have been emailing them to him one at a time, spoon feeding him that says, listen to this in the car. And so every day he gets another chapter. And I just saw him Sunday. He was giddy because he had just that morning closed an $85,000 deal. His average sale is about $30,000. So, when I see that kind of, and we're on like chapter 8 of 14 now. We're not even, barely halfway through the book, and he's already, making money with this. When I see that kind of instant efficacy in a how-to book, when you can hand it to somebody and immediately start making money with it, that really excites me. That's the value in the utility of that is there's so few books these days that are that actionable and practical, and it's and it's not high tech. He's not selling semiconductor testing equipment or a bottling machine factory, or some of the examples you talk about. And he's selling landscaping. This is about as blue collar as it gets, and this was instantly transformational for him.
Yeah, I think since you bring that up at the end, by the way, I love the story. Thank you for sharing that. That is so cool. But my favorite thing, there's no doubt, my favorite thing in the world, besides making money, my favorite thing in the world is helping somebody who then comes back later and says, oh my God, did you see the impact this had? Right. I have one lady who wrote a LinkedIn review for me, or testimonial, who said he doubled my income last year. Right. And that's just, it's like so rewarding to know that you can help people with this.
I know.
I love that. But what I was going to suggest is this guy's a landscaper. He's probably selling more B2C. And even if he were selling to businesses, it's going to be pretty hard to turn landscaping into dollar value to a customer.
Actually, he hasn't had any problem with that at all, because he said he switched over from, oh, you want this? Yeah, we can do that. Oh, you want flat, a flagstone walkway? Yeah, we can do that. Oh, you want to put up a berm with pine trees? Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can do that. And instead, he's turned his approach around to, look, the cost of concrete is doubled. The cost of trees is up 50%. The cost of sod is tripled. If you don't do this now, a year from now, it's going to cost you another $50,000. And, for every dollar that you put, that you invest in your home now, you're going to get back, double or triple in the next 3 or 4 years. And he can show the Zillow numbers before and after on projects that he went back and had done to actually do that, because he took your advice to heart. How do you quantify? Oh, well, we want a nice area where we can entertain outdoors. And instead, boiling that down to the dollars and cents, this is a good investment and you should do it now. This is cash in the bank. This is going to give you a better return than the stock market. And it's working for him brilliantly.
Nice. I actually hadn't thought of that. I'm glad he did. You
just did what you say. Take the non-tangible value and turn it into, quantified. Keep asking the question. How do you measure that and translate it into measurable dollars?
Oh, I think that's fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous. So so normally I write to pricing people, product management people, and this book, by the way, early in my career, I was a salesperson and I was horrible. So that's, why I went into pricing and being a professor and everything.
Yeah.
But now here we are, towards the end of my career, what I want to do, I just said, can I take everything I know and apply it to sales? Because it feels to me like salespeople need to truly understand what value means to their customers. As pricing people, we're always pushing.
Wait a minute. But since this is a podcast for pricing people, why should they care about selling value?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is pricing people inside big companies have to deal with lots and lots of different departments. And one of those departments we often deal with is salespeople. And the question always, let me start with, we make fun of salespeople. Salespeople discount too often. They don't want to sell the value. They don't want to take the time. All they know how to do is discount. And that isn't really true, by the way. But what is really true is that salespeople don't know how to sell value. And I think if we as pricing people, as product managers, as product marketers, if we can help salespeople learn how to sell value, we're going to do a much better job at achieving higher average selling prices for our company, right? Which is really what we're trying to get accomplished. So yeah, this would be a great book for pricing people, product managers, product marketers. I think it's an even better book for you to buy and give to your sales team.
Yes. Well, we certainly had many companies that did that with Guerilla Selling. Pfizer, for example, bought, something like 7,000 copies of the book for all of their sales team. There was a major hotel chain, Choice Hotels International, that gave a copy of Guerilla Selling to some 50,000 travel agents around the world, and said, read this book. So just putting this technology in the hands of your sales team is going to make an immediate and measurable impact. As I've already said, and perhaps certainly more so than any other sales book I've read recently, and I've read them all. I try to anyway. So.
Well, all I can say is thank you for all the hard work you put into this.
It's been a pleasure. It's very few projects that I do for clients, and I don't know. This is probably the 30th book like this that I've coached someone through. But of all of them, this has been one of the most exciting for me. I think in part just because it's so close to my own kind of home base and my own life's work, helping salespeople. It's really cool, and we'll have the audio version available in the next very very soon. We'll just, as they say in the software business, soon.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
Well, we're not sure when this podcast gets released anyway, so the audiobook might be out already.
Yeah, probably. So
Who knows? Who knows? So, Orvel Ray, you have just been amazing as a business coach for me in so many ways. By the way, it's just so everybody knows, Orvel Ray not only helps me with the book, which he's done a fantastic job, he helps me strategize my business. He tries to make me a better speaker. I don't know that works so well.
You're a great speaker.
But he is just an amazing business coach. I'm thrilled that I found him and that he's working with me. And by the way, he also told me that if anybody who wants to do their own business, be a speaker and author, he would give you a free hour just for reaching out to him.
Just for asking. Sure. That's what I do. After 40 years on the international circuit, I'm now at that stage in my career where I just want to give back as much as I can to the next generation coming up. So if you send an email to Orvel Ray that's too hard to spell. ORVELRAY, Orvel Ray at gmail.com. I'll send you a link and we'll get together on Zoom and explore the possibilities, see what you got.
Cool.
Well, I'm happy to help any way I can.
You answered my last question before I asked it. So now I'm going to ask my second to last question. And I didn't prep you for this. This is going to be hard, Orvel Ray. What's one piece of pricing advice you would give our listeners that you think could have a big impact on their business?
Charge more.
Oh, I love it.
Just charge more. I tell most of the people that I work with is the biggest mistake that aspiring speakers make is that they set their fees too low right out of the box. In the industry, anything less than about $2,500 labels you as an amateur. The sweet spot for that kind of work is around $5,000 to $10,000. We're talking about for like a half-day seminar, breakout session, general session, keynote, or maybe even a full-day sales meeting. Writing a book, you can double that number. So now that your book is out, you're going to have to double your fees.
Uh-oh.
And
I've never been shy about my fees. Let me assure you.
Right. If you're closing more than about 70% of your opportunities, you're not charging enough. You can always negotiate down. One of the things that you talk about in this book is the idea of the set point. That if you quote a big number, we kill 3 million bugs a day. As an exterminating service. And our subscription service is only $2,000 a month, and we'll do your whole office building. Now that price, whatever that is, sounds a lot more reasonable. And so one of the scripts we teach is we start the conversation at, and then name the biggest number that you can say out loud without choking on it. And then, continue the conversation, from there. You can always negotiate down. So, build value, include everything, load up the table like it's Thanksgiving dinner. And then if you have to, talk about reducing your fees, you can take things off the table and still defend your value.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, the effect that Orvel Ray was talking about was called anchoring, and it's in the behavioral economics chapter of the book. And so I want to pile on to what you just said. Every time I raise my fees and I quote it to somebody, inside you get this little twinge of, oh, that was too much. And then when they go, oh, that seems reasonable, you're just like, oh, that felt great.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sure.
So I think many of us, especially if we sell our own time or our own brand, we think that people saying yes or no impacts our self-worth or our confidence. And in truth, we just have to get used to saying, hey, if they don't want to pay my fee, that's totally okay. Doesn't bother me.
Well, and there's a flip side too. If you're charging, $100 a minute just for them to listen to you talk, you better have something to say. Patricia Fripp taught me that. She says, you you better not waste a breath. You better not waste a syllable. You better be on and have done your homework and prepared thoroughly and rehearsed completely, and deliver value at the level of fees that you've just raised to, and that makes you better over time. And so it becomes a self-fulfilling cycle of value and price over time.
Yep, absolutely right. Orvel Ray,
we're waxing philosophical.
This has been so much fun. Thank you very much for participating with us today. I normally ask if anyone wants to contact you, how can they do that? So you've already done that.
If they have a pencil, I'll give you a toll-free number you can call as well.
Go ahead.
800-247-9145. And you call me a Luddite. Yes, we still have a landline here. And I work from home, so I'll answer it personally. And I look forward to having a conversation.
You live in the middle of the boonies. Do they even have cell reception out there?
Barely, sort of, kind of via the internet. So
okay.
We have to have a special transmitter in the other room that makes the cell phones work. So
nice. Episode 172 is all done. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, would you please leave us a rating and a review? Remember, our goal is to help you win more business at higher prices, which, by the way, is the tagline of the book, Selling Value. So if you have any questions or comments about the podcast or pricing in general, feel free to email me, mark@impactpricing.com. Now, go make an impact. Thanks again to Jennings Executive Search for sponsoring our podcast. If you're looking to hire someone in pricing, I suggest you contact someone who knows pricing people. Contact Jennings Executive Search.